to our continuing coverage of Hurricane Katrina, which is still a very dangerous storm. Even though it did weaken slightly at landfall, it's still causing an awful lot of problems out there.
And Kelly, it is coming ashore now, making that second final landfall right there on the Mississippi and Louisiana border. And it looks like from here on out there should be substantial weakening, but I tell you what, it has been an incredible last 6 hours. There is the track pretty much now due north, and looking at the observations, it has gone almost a full degree north of latitude, going right up that longitudinal line. And now the wind is starting to come around in the city of New Orleans, turning more to the southwest.
We have reports of widespread flooding that is going on now, just a significant water rise going on here, especially in St. Bernard Parish. We're being told that it's really difficult getting to some of the folks that are asking to be rescued because the wind has still been too strong, and that would put the authorities at risk as well. We have reports of lots of structural damage in and around that area as well, and it just continues to be pounded by the heavy rain, and of course the water rise is still with us as well.
And once again, Kelly, this is our picture from the areas in Covington, Louisiana. This is up north of Lake Pontchartrain, up near where Jeff is. We saw that report that he filed on tape a minute ago, catching really the brunt of that action now in Covington. And the wind out there in Covington is starting to back around now, which had been more of an east wind, then it goes north and eventually turning northwest, but still getting raked right there in that eye wall.
Yeah, Jeff Morrow's been reporting live from that area, and I tell you what, he's been having some difficulty just trying to stand up straight in that kind of wind. Our storm tracker Jim Cantori is also in Gulfport, Mississippi. We hope to have a live report with him, but we want to first go to Mike Seidel, who joins us live now from Mobile, Alabama. And Mike, we can see the hood is up, and you are barely standing up too. How is it out there?
Wow, this is, you know, this is it right now. We're getting the worst of the weather. That gust had to be up above hurricane force. It is just raking my back. Boy, it just feels like it's stinging. It's like being out on the beach. Let's try to look. Let's look over towards the flight. Look how these power lines are just waving back and forth. The transformer's hanging on, but most of the power is out. The power continues to be out. Keep an eye on those power transformers. Whoa! Now, let's turn around. Look this way. You can hear the wind howling. We're looking across the street now and get a sense of the trees looking now back up 65. We still don't see any windows blown out on the bank building, and these signs, they're still hanging in. Let's turn back around this way again because we're looking right into the wind, see if we can see anything. Oh, okay. Check out the sign there. We talked about that wraparound billboard, and look, it's been ripped to shreds. This last gust has taken care of that one. You can forget that, baby. This sign over here, this Treadwell Ford sign, is doing okay. Boy, that stings. But this band right now, Marshall and Heather, is about as bad as we've seen all morning. And fortunately, we're still able to get a picture out. We've got some good truck protection. Just keeping an eye out for flying debris. Fortunately, there's not a lot of trees around here, so we just watch out for these power lines. Woo, and these signs. Hardly anybody out on the roadway. And by the way, I wanted to update you again on that situation down on the Mobile River. Now we get a bit of a lull here. The oil tanker, which ripped from its moorings, they've got that shored up now with 3 tugboats. Took them a while. We still don't know if there's been any kind of oil leakage into the water there, but you can imagine how rough the Mobile Bay is and the surge flood concerns. That's why we pulled back yesterday afternoon to higher ground. We're a good 5 or 6 miles from the water. Let's spin around one more time and see the sign. Not anything new to show you in the past couple of minutes, but just feel you can maybe live vicariously through the camera and the TV of what it's like to be out during hurricane force wind gusts. Once they get any higher, I can't really stand up. I've got to hold on to something, but you get a brief break and then all of a sudden, boom, it just hits you. Marshall and Heather, we're here. We're hanging out. Man, yeah, no matter how little sleep you get, how many days you're on the road, when you get into this kind of weather, at least personally, the adrenaline just starts rushing, and it feels like you could go forever. As long as that rain and wind keeps blowing. As soon as the rain and wind stops, then you start to lose that adrenaline rush. But get a sense. One lone car here, and you can see how poor the visibility is. I can't believe people are out riding around a day like today. Maybe some people just trying to get farther north and east out of this mess, because as they head towards Montgomery and Birmingham, it's not going to be as bad as here. We'll throw it back to you. We'll hang out here on the street here on the frontage road along I-65. We're just, again, 3 miles north of Interstate 10 here in Mobile County, Alabama.
Mike, again, this is Bill and Kelly now, clarifying you're north of Interstate 10. How far are you off of Mobile Bay, and how far north of you off of the Gulf of Mexico?
Woo! Let's do another timestamp. Let's do another timestamp.
Okay.
Okay, I think he's having difficulty hearing us, obviously. He's having some rough weather there, that's for sure.
Yeah, the right front quadrant coming into play there, Kelly. Those winds are even stronger now than they were an hour ago.
Take a look at our bottom line now. Along the coast, the highest surge is happening right now as we speak. But further inland, hurricane-force winds are also being felt.
And Kelly, we're talking about cities east of Jackson, Mississippi, the Hattiesburg area, Meridian, Mississippi, and there is your center point on the hurricane as of the 10 o'clock advisory. Okay, there we go. And there it is at 125 miles per hour. Still a very strong Category 3 hurricane. The movement now north is 16 miles an hour. And I mentioned east of Jackson there, so Meridian, Laurel, Hattiesburg, those are the primary cities that'll get hit very hard in southeastern Mississippi.
Tell you what, even as far east as the panhandle of Florida, we're experiencing some serious beach erosion, and we've got Stephanie Abrams joining us live now from Fort Walton Beach. And Steph, have you been getting much of the rain? I know you're certainly experiencing the wind, but what about your rainfall there?
No, Kelly, the rain hasn't been that bad, I must admit. We get little spritzes here and there, and the winds sustained below tropical storm force, and then we do get some gusts around the mid-40 range is about how high we've gotten those gusts. And tropical storm force winds 39 to 74 miles per hour, and above that, of course, hurricane strength winds. We are getting a southeast flow. The storm rotates counterclockwise. We are on the east side, so we're going to get that southeast wind here, and that, of course, is roughing up the Gulf. Have a look at these pictures here, and you're asking about the beach erosion. Fortunately, they have built some dunes here. They learned very well from Ivan. They didn't have the dunes for Ivan, and all this sand and water was in the bottom floor. They actually told me a story that in the bottom floor there's so much sand they had to kind of duck down and creep down to be in the room. So they learned their lesson. They built these dunes, put some sea oats to really firm it up in there. And Dennis, it was a success. In Dennis, they didn't have any problems. And with this storm, seeing that we're not feeling the full brunt of it, it's helping as well. And what happens with all the coast here, all on the Gulf Coast, the water comes in and then it pulls a lot of that sand back out to sea. So what will happen is, with the erosion along the coast here, is sandbars will form in the Gulf. And then what they'll do is they'll pump that sand back on shore to replenish those beaches. That's what they did in Gulf Shores, Alabama. Then they build the dunes up and they plant some of those sea oats, and that will help firm down those dunes. So we will be seeing significant beach erosion here. We're seeing our waves 20 to 25 feet. And basically, this is all we'll have to deal with. And I just can't imagine what they're going through. I heard Jim Cantori talking on the phone a while ago, and they're getting it pretty bad there. We're very fortunate here, but we have a lot of their residents here, and they're staying here. The power has been good. It's been staying on a little sporadic here and there, but some of the roads are washed over with the ocean where they don't have the dunes, just maybe a little bit of a wall. Bill and Kaylee, what happens is all that water, boop, right over and onto the roadways. So I have a feeling that some of the folks from Mississippi and Louisiana are going to be stuck here for several days because those roads are going to be washed out.
Thank you very much, Stephanie, for that live report. I understand a lot of the evacuees from Louisiana, Mississippi are where you are, Steph, and just what you're experiencing there, they've got to believe that, man, this is much better than what they could have been going through back home.
But again, the expanse of this hurricane, the flight level wind now reporting the top winds at 120 knots out there in that eastern quadrant, which is safe to say covering up part of the Florida Panhandle.
The other threat with a landfalling tropical system, the threat of tornadoes, and we have several tornado warnings in effect for southern Mississippi.
Yeah, Kelly, one goes till 10:30. This is in the Marion County area and Lamar County. Reports of a tornado on the ground by a spotter near Poplarville in Pearl River County. That tornado racing northeast at 50 miles an hour. Areas in the path, including Lumberton and Columbia, seek shelter immediately.
4 other counties to mention in southeastern Mississippi: George County, Stone, Perry, and Greene counties also under tornado warnings until the top of the hour, presently moving northward at 14 miles an hour. And by the way, in this special statement from the National Hurricane Center, from the National Weather Service, the onset of destructive winds with gusts of 100 to 120 miles per hour will begin soon. So not only are we dealing with the threat of tornadoes, but that actual strong wind associated with the eye wall of Katrina.
And Dr. Lyons is here now. And Dr. Lyons, I know that is coming ashore, but there is going to be a storm surge issue for a good while to come. How much longer will folks east of that track have to deal with that surge?
Well, it's going to be a water rise for a long time. It's not going to go back to normal until the winds back away, and those winds are going to be onshore for at least another 24 hours. So the water will be above average for 24 hours. The very high surge will slowly go down within the next 6 hours, 4 to 6 hours in most of the locations, except in New Orleans, where you have to pump the water out if the water's gotten in there. Now, here's the latest advisory from the Hurricane Center: 125-mile-per-hour winds moving north at 16. That forward speed of motion is a positive thing in some ways. One, it makes the overall event last shorter in any given location, and two, it keeps the rainfall totals lower if the system keeps moving at a fairly decent speed, and we think that's going to continue inland. Even though we're going to get some significant flooding and heavy rain, it would be much worse if we're moving a lot slower. Okay, it's making a second landfall right on the Louisiana-Mississippi border here, just to the northeast of Slidell, Louisiana, and it looks like the winds over New Orleans and off to the southeast are dying down quite a bit and turning around now to the west or west-northwest. The strongest winds are in Mississippi now, and theirs is going to be starting to move inland. You can see here's Biloxi here, down here near past Christiane. That's where they got one of the highest surge areas of all, waveland as well. Right in there, it looks like the surge could have been at least as high as 22 feet, and it could be as high as 27 feet. We're not exactly certain, but based on our live shots, it could have been even higher than Hurricane Camille. It could have set a record. That's unconfirmed right now, though. In the meantime, on the far side over here, we got some very strong winds coming out of the south into the Mobile area, and some of the highest wave action so far in the circulation is coming onshore now. The reason for that, before the winds were out of the east and the wave action was directed offshore. Now all the wave action is coming right onshore, and some of our highest water rises of the entire storm system are occurring right now in the Alabama, western Florida panhandle. They should subside fairly quickly as the circulation center moves inland and the wind action starts to slow down a little bit out here. But the waves will be above average for at least another 24 hours in the Gulf of Mexico and on the coast of Florida and Alabama, and also all the way over to Louisiana and Mississippi. Let's look at a couple of other things of interest in particular. Here's a projected path that goes into Mississippi and then northward. It's going to become an extratropical system eventually. The good news is we have it moving at a fairly decent forward speed. We don't see it stopping, so we don't expect any major inland flooding event. But the winds are very strong, and that's going to carry some strong damaging winds and power outage potential inland over the next few days. Here's the wave action out there. These will start to abate later this afternoon to below 25 feet and then drop rather dramatically tonight as the system moves inland. The direct structural damage impact highest in this area. Once it gets inland here, it's going to start to weaken rather quickly, but there's still potential for some structure damage all the way into central Mississippi and extreme eastern portions of Alabama, western portions of Alabama the next 24 hours. The threat also for farther inland is going to be power outage threat, and this is only through this evening, but we're going to be expanding this cone, at least the yellow portion of the cone where it's possible for power outages farther north as the system moves inland, because it's going to carry some tropical storm winds inland at least 300 miles with this system. Bill, Kelly.
Steve, I want to ask you a quick question. Are we experiencing the worst of Katrina right now at this moment?
It depends on where you are. In the Florida Panhandle in Alabama, probably yes, and it'll be subsiding quickly. In New Orleans, it's already passed. In Mississippi, portions of it have probably already peaked and are just about to go down. So it's going to improve quickly, but the worst impact is probably over in many of the locations.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Lyons. So while it's going to eventually improve along the coastline, it's only going to get worse for others further down the road.
And we want to go back now to the Mobile area in Alabama along